Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching my videos. And for those of you that have subscribed already, I appreciate it very much. For those of you that have not subscribed yet, you should hit that subscribe button so that you are entered into my monthly drawings for sponsored giveaways. Each month, I'm always giving away some Bridgeford beef jerky as well as some other sponsored products. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't done it already. And I just got back from Florida. I went down and practiced at Lake Okeechobee for a couple of days. My buddy Miles Berghoff, who is another angler in the tournament, called me up and said, "Hey, do you want to come down and ride along with me for a couple of days?" And you know, I jumped on that in a heartbeat. First, Miles is a good friend of mine, so it was a blast getting to fish with him for 3 days. But at the same time, I haven't been to Lake Okeechobee in, I think 4 or 5 years. And since then, there's been hurricanes, high water, and I had heard the lake had gone through a lot of different changes during the time that, you know, since I was there last. So I jumped on it. I went down, I flew down there, fished for 3 days and got back yesterday. Hence some of the sunglass tan lines you can see. Up here, you know, in the winter, we're all bundled up in the winter, and when we head south, I always end up getting pretty fried. As careful as I am, I still feel like I end up getting fried. But so yeah, I got back, and the lake is totally different. It's amazing to me how much it's changed, how much weeds have been completely moved from one area to another, and how, you know, there were areas that just were full of cattails and hydrilla and all that stuff. It just seems like it's gone. It just got ripped out and moved. So it's going to be a really interesting tournament in a couple of weeks when we go back. The fishing really was not good at all for us. We struggled. We caught some really big fish, but we did not get many bites. Normally, Okeechobee is the type of place you can go and catch a lot of 12-inch fish. And man, I think our smallest fish was like 14 inches or 15 inches, which really surprised us. And we didn't catch that many fish at all. So, but while I was down there, one of the things I was thinking about that always seems to surprise me is how much, you know, I go there one time and it's like I'll throw a lipless crankbait. I go there another time and I throw more of a chatterbait, a vibrating jig style bait. And it all has to do with how much the lake changes. And I thought I would talk a little bit about why I throw one over the other. And, you know, for those of you who are not aware, you know, a lipless crankbait is a rattle trap style bait. This is a Berkeley War Pig, one of my favorites. And then a vibrating jig is, you know, basically a chatterbait style jig. This is a Evergreen Z-Man jackhammer. 2 baits that I go to quite a bit. And, you know, for the most part, they are interchangeable lures, meaning, you know, that they're both meant for like ripping out of grass and covering water. You know, they're loud, obnoxious baits that just seem to trigger fish to bite. And not just fish, but big fish. They're big fish baits. And that's one reason I like throwing both. But to me, there's a very clear time to throw one over the other. And, you know, specifically with a chatterbait, or, you know, this jackhammer chatterbait. So with a vibrating jig, I love to throw this when I'm in really, really heavy grass, really thick condition, you know, relatively shallow water, you know, anything probably 5 feet or less. But I like it better when I'm fishing really thick weed. You know, it's a great bait for ripping out of the weed. You bury it, you know, bury it in the grass and you rip it hard and it explodes out of there. And it just triggers a lot of bites. I like throwing it when I'm around other cover like wood because it's more weedless than a rattle trap. So again, not only does it come through grass better, it also is better with wood. But I feel like it's a better bait for covering water. I'm a lot more efficient with a vibrating jig. You know, I feel like I'm just casting and reeling, and I mean it's not a real slow process, and because of that I can cover a lot of water. So when I go to a place like Lake Okeechobee where the entire lake looks the same, one of the keys is you got to cover water. You're trying to find that, you know, 4-acre area in a 200-acre area that's got fish. So the faster you can do that, or the more efficient you can do that, the better. And that kind of goes back to a bait that you can really cover a ton of water with. So to me, when I'm going to like Lake Okeechobee, I see this year being a really good year for this, for a, you know, a vibrating jig. And it really has to do with the fact that I did not see much hydrilla at all, but there's a lot of really clean lines with thick cover. So what I mean by that is you have a lot of clumps of round reeds or bulrushes, whatever you call them, for wherever you're at, cattails. There's sections of pad, really clean lines of like hay grass. And I think a chatterbait's a really good bait to bring that through those. And you can get it stuck in those thick clumps and still rip it out of there. Whereas if I was throwing a rattle trap along, say, you know, bulrushes or round reeds or cattails, you know, if I get stuck, if one of those treble hooks gets stuck, I'm probably not getting that bait back. It's just, I'm just going to get stuck more often. And with those clean lines, you know, a lot of times it's all about angles. So I may be casting, say, along a hay grass line, and I'll work it along the line, you know, for 15, 20 feet. It's right on that edge, but then there's one little bump out. Well, I can work this through that bump out, whereas, you know, I can't do that with the rattle trap. And this year, there's just not a lot of that bottom grass. There's, you know, there is some eelgrass, but that's really about it. But the eelgrass are really thick areas too, and they come up to the surface. So it's not like I'm going to reel in this over the side. Again, it's going to be kind of that right down the weed line. You know, switching over to, say, this war pig with a lipless crankbait, for me, this has become, it's almost become the bait that I use when the chatterbait doesn't have that thick cover to work through. So what I mean by that is, you know, if I'm fishing clean bottom areas, I can cover a ton of water with this, but it's got to be kind of a clean bottom area. So, you know, I like ripping it through weeds, but I like ripping it through sparser weeds. When you got, you know, scattered stalks of milfoil or hydrilla, you know, not those real thick clumps, because this doesn't come through that stuff nearly as well as a vibrating jig. But if I'm fishing a river, I would almost always go with a lipless crank over a chatterbait, because I think this works better in the current. And it, you know, if you're bouncing along rocks, this is a really good bait to bounce, you know, along rocks down current. And it's, you know, it's, if you tried to work a chatterbait in that same style, a lot of times if the current hits the blade in the wrong way, you won't get the same vibration that you will. Whereas, you know, you can really bump a lipless crankbait down those current seams. I also really have gone to a lipless crankbait more when I'm fishing deeper water. And what I mean by deeper is, you know, again, kind of where that, in my opinion, the chatterbait ends. So in that 4, 5, 6 foot range. And I'll work this all the way down to like 20 foot of water. And it's much more of that yo-yo style. I'll throw it out there, let it sink to the bottom, and then I'm almost dragging it or yo-yoing it back along the bottom. But it covers that deeper water column better. So if you do have some bottom grass, whether it's some eelgrass or, you know, hydrilla or milfoil that's growing deeper, I think this bait works better because you can bring it across the top of that better than trying to keep your chatterbait down at a deeper depth. So, you know, there definitely are differences for me. Obviously, they're made to be fished in really similar areas and through similar conditions. But the biggest issue for me is, what am I going to be more efficient in bringing that bait through? If the cover is a little bit heavy, where these you know, super sharp treble hooks are going to catch on everything, and they're not, it's too thick a cover where I can rip the bait free, I'm going to go with the chatterbait, because a lot of times I can get that chatterbait through that thick cover better. But if it's a little sparser, a little deeper, or even just a bare bottom, I'm going with the lipless crankbait. I just feel like this is going to be much more efficient and generate more strikes. So, you know, this year going down to Lake Okeechobee, I feel like it's going to be a vibrating jig year, just because we don't have, you know, that kind of sparse hydrilla, sparser eelgrass clumps where you can work a little deeper water. It's really going to be, from what I saw, it's going to be a shallow water fishery with a lot of emerging grass that you're going to be trying to work your bait around, or, you know, flipping right into the middle of. But I hope this helps. You know, both baits are fantastic baits. They catch giant fish. And, you know, you're going to have instances where you want to have one or the other or both rigged up, but there's definitely a time and a place where I feel like one is better than the other. So I hope this helped, guys. If you got any questions, shoot them over in the comment section. I love to read the comments, and if there's questions I can answer through videos like this, I enjoy doing it. Stay tuned. We got videos coming out every day with mostly tips and tricks regarding fishing, but at the same time, we do have every once in a while a family video that comes out, and our tournament season's getting ready to start here, so I'm gonna have a lot of tournament recap videos coming out as well. Thanks for watching, guys.